all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, doing our bit to help preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. Now, today's podcast is, let's call it Refuge, about refuge. What is refuge? I was interviewed once for a film about refuge, and I didn't know what to say. I hadn't thought about it beforehand. And but then later, after it was over, I thought, well, refuge is the most important point. Now, one thing I've learned from studying Shunryu Suzuki and his lectures is that the most important point is something. We have a page for the most important point on Cuke.com, and I think there was about 100 in his lectures, about 150 times he said the most important point, and 150 times he said the most important thing. I mean, something around there. And every time it was something different. And people would really think that was him saying that's the most important point. One thing I thought was interesting is that Danny Parker, Danny, you might hear this, edited a book of Ed Brown's lectures, and he really liked the point that Ed made, or the memory Ed had of a Suzuki lecture, where Suzuki said, the most important point is to know what the most important point is. Actually, that wasn't a lecture. That was a Shosan ceremony, question-answer ceremony. So that was the name of the book, something like that. You just wouldn't believe how many things he said were the most important points. You know, and one reason is because he had a way of saying that whatever he was saying included everything else. He'd say things like, well, if you follow this precept, you're following all the precepts. And so one thing I've noticed is that people are constantly taking refuge in samsara, in this world, this plane of illusion. We are taking refuge in delusion. And practice of Buddhism is to learn to take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And it's something that we can focus on all our lives. Like Suzuki would say, is that your practice is founded in delusion. Or Buddha would say, like you shoot an arrow 100 times to the target and don't hit the target till the 100th time. The first 99 shots can't be said to be shot in vain. Something like that, right? We shouldn't be critical of ourselves when we realize that we're not really taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. We're taking refuge in delusion. One thing Dogen said that Suzuki quoted a few times, I remember, is that People like what's not true and they don't like what's true. That's a pretty simple statement. Reminds me of Mark Twain saying, a lie travels around the world while the truth is tying its shoes. Now, Mark Twain was talking about relative truth, right? He was very involved in political, social issues. Mark Twain, gosh, that's like 1800s. I'd say late 1800s, huh? That what he had noticed in the social conversation, the political conversation, is that, or maybe he was talking about any type of beliefs or anything, that what is not true tends to dominate. Or like he said, it travels all the way around the world while the truth is still tying its shoelaces. Now, many of us have noticed some version of this in our political lives recently and are astounded at how such a preponderance of people can believe what is objectively false. Of course, to them, other people are believing what is objectively false. I mean, their object or their objective view. But when Dogen said, we believe what is not true, we like what is not true, that's what Suzuki would say, but we don't like what's true. I think of it more in terms of being attached to delusion. And, I definitely see it in terms of being attached to delusion and liking an untrue way of experiencing whatever's happening, rather than experiencing it in an enlightened way, right? But what's the difference between that and what Mark Twain meant is that, the things that are completely untrue and obviously untrue can take hold and become very, very popular, even preferred. It's just amazing, isn't it? I mean, I've got no solution for it. But, well, actually, that's not true. Here's what I do. I wake up in the morning and I have some state of mind that is immediately, I tend to grade it in terms of pleasant or unpleasant. And then I say, it doesn't matter, and I just start. If it's like taking hold of me, I just start saying thank you. Or I'll do one of two things, saying thank you, or I'll start counting. Counting's really great. I learned that from Shunryu Suzuki. And we thought, that's a beginning stage. Counting's great because it sort of clears the mind of pointless, thinking. Pointless thinking, just mind, the thought stream just rambling along sort of randomly. And so, all right, so I wake up and I'd say two things. I might say thank you, and it sort of cleans it out. Or I would say it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you feel. It's just, really what the approach is. And I think this is one of my standby refuges is sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. the disciple goes to the master and says, "Oh, master, you're sick. I'm sorry." And the master says, "Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha." In other words, he's Buddha, whether he feels good or not. And that's what and the more important point, it's really hard to express. That's what I take refuge in, or that's what I try to take refuge in the morning, is that which is not preferred or unpreferred. It's just in what is right now, regardless of what's happening in the world or with my family or anything. I mean, at least to go to the toilet and then walk into the kitchen, and I make hot water, and I've got some things I do there. I fill that we filter our water. We got these big filters, and I pour water in them to filter them so that we have ayaraputi, which means white water. It means pure water, drinking water. It means drinking water, potable water. And whatever I do, I just try to take refuge in it. Or, I mean, that word try is really, I don't like. And I make an effort not to take refuge in thinking about things that please me or bother me. I mean, can't really fight it. You just got to let it sort of happen. But, do some practice that transcends it, like whatever you're doing transcends it. Another thing I do is I tell myself to shut up. If I really am lost in some chain of thought that's going like, oh boy, just break that. Just go shut up. Let me look here at some things that Shunryu Suzuki said about refuge. Look, I've just got all his lectures here, and all I'm doing is searching for the word refuge. Let me see what we find. Oh, this is cool. He says, anyway, we have to take refuge in 3 treasures as long as we are Buddhist. So we have 3 refuges and 3 corrective precepts and the 10 prohibitory precepts. This is 3 of the 16 of Soto's precepts or Dogen's precepts. The 3 treasures will be understood in 3 ways. 3 treasures are Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, right? That's what we take refuge in. We take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha rather than like some perfect society or everything working out like we want to work out. It doesn't mean we're always trying to make everything work out, right? We're always trying to reduce suffering, do as little harm as possible, help people, whatever we can do. We're trying to be good and all that. But at the same time, we have to do it without taking refuge in it, because if we're doing it while being like very attached to it, then we'll be very upset, because we will see that, like, the Book of Tao said, you can't improve the universe. I love that one. So, what is taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, right? He said the 3 refuges will be understood in 3 ways. The manifested 3 treasures, the supreme one, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The supreme one here has a question mark after it. I wonder who put that in. I bet that goes back to the first transcription. That's just Buddha. Supreme one. Buddha Dharma Sangha. This is manifested treasures, manifested three treasures. And maintaining three treasures, Buddha's images, sutras, and precepts, priests, these are called maintaining the three treasures. And one body, three treasures, essentially Buddha, no body of Buddha, the harmonious body of Buddha. This is more philosophical understanding of the three treasures. See, he's reading something and commenting on it. Anyway, he says, we have to take refuge in the three treasures as long as we are Buddhists. Well, here's a good one. He's still reading stuff and he's commenting on it. He says, do not take refuge in the spirits of mountains or ghosts of the dead and worship not the heretical shrines. He's just reading something, right? And then he says, because heretical understanding, which all that means is incorrect understanding, right? We take refuge in something which is different from yourself. That is heretical understanding. That is not our understanding. According to our understanding, everything is within our mind. Our mind includes everything. And in our mind, many things will take place. So when we do not lose this mind, whatever happens to us, that is precept observation. When we are caught by dualistic or something objective existence or idea, objective existence, and we worship them, that is heretical understanding. So the spirits of the mountain are ghosts of the dead, and to worship at heretical shrines is not our way of observing precepts. Those things were from what he was reading, this text, right? But what is, this is really, really good, right? You know, it's heretical to take refuge in something that is outside of us because our mind includes everything. I love that. I love it because it's so paradoxical. If our mind includes everything, then we can't take refuge in anything that's not within our mind. So we can't take refuge in a mistaken way or in the ghosts of the mountains or whatever, because they're within our mind. Anyway, what I find with any teaching, you got to be careful about believing it or understanding or, holding on to it. Just let it go through you, because it'll be incomplete. You could just substitute for that, taking refuge in wanting to make a perfect society. Like, it's good to want a perfect society and to want to have good leaders and everything to work out, and we should work toward that, but not take refuge in it. We just do it. We just do everything. But what are we taking refuge in? We're taking refuge in something that is before phenomena, or that is identical with phenomena, but nothing you can put your finger on, or it's just always there. One thing you can do when you find yourself, taking refuge in something outside of yourself, something that you hope will work out, you can say, well, what I have right now, right here, this is the ultimate refuge. I hope that works out. But this is the refuge right now. I like this point that we can't take refuge, or true refuge is not taking refuge in something outside of ourselves. That's really something to keep in mind, I think. Oh, am I taking refuge in something outside of myself? Of course, there's nothing outside of ourselves. So what does this mean? what would taking refuge in something outside of ourselves be if everything is inside of ourselves? What would false refuge be? I'd say it's taking refuge in something you can put your finger on, something you can hold, or something, taking refuge in something you can comprehend. But all these things, all these ways of looking at how to deal with existence, it's sort of like you're going around. We're going around the what we're looking for, but we're not finding it. But that is our practice is rooted in delusion, and we should keep that up. But we should do it, with a very, like he would say, soft mind, without getting all worked up, and just keep doing it, and keep taking refuge in the incomprehensible. So I take refuge in, so what do I think I take refuge in? Zazen and walking and this sort of extended Zazen, everything else. Zazen in action. And as long as I just do it and don't think about it, I don't know. I'm pretty satisfied with that. And with, practicing in delusion. One thing Dogen said that you might take heart at, but you can't really take refuge in it. He said, have you noticed the wicked excelling? Those who are wicked and nasty and doing well and being healthy and the pure of heart and those who are good, like getting sick or poor or having hard times. Sort of, I cannot remember. My takeaway from it, I read it long ago, was don't worry, pretty little head about it. He said, karma is as inescapable as your shadow. So it's good to always be working. Suzuki would say this, there will always be war, but we should always work to prevent war. And I've quoted him on that a number of times. And I always say afterwards, I do not agree there will always be war. There will always be war maybe in the state of mind, the general, evolution of our collective consciousness here. But we got to evolve away from that, either in this life or the next. One thing about karma, it's the same as refuge. It is not something outside of our mind. It is not an outside force. And refuge is not an outside savior. There is no hope in taking refuge in phenomena. So you can take heart at that. You can say, oh, good God, it didn't seem to be working out. But what we can take refuge in, and what is always there and always ready for us, is refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. There's various definitions of what Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are. Let's say Buddha is let's say Buddha, you might say big mind. Dharma, the teaching that helps us awaken to big mind. And Sangha is the community. Suzuki would say, he would say, well, the Sangha is like at Tassajara had said. The Sangha, that's all of us here at Tassajara. But actually, it's all sentient beings. So we're taking refuge in the incomprehensible, the incomprehensible Buddha, the incomprehensible Dharma, and the incomprehensible Sangha, the interconnected. And we could look at it from a point of view of, an old Abrahamic teaching. Isn't this one of the Ten Commandments, like right up there at top? Basically it's saying don't worship graven images. Well, what's a graven image? Hey, I like it. Hey, my second cousin, Greg Abbott, got the Ten Commandments on, he was the governor of Texas, on the Capitol, in front of the Capitol. He got the Supreme Court to let him do it, right? He got a decision. And there was some Baptist minister who said, actually he was a pretty important Baptist leader, who said he thought it was interesting to worship a graven image that says don't worship graven images. And but that's exactly right. What does it mean? It means don't take refuge to me, in the comprehensible. Because what's a graven image? You could say it's writing. I would think it's, you could just easily say it's thought. It's something artificial, man-made. People who take refuge in the written word, they're worshiping graven images. However, it doesn't mean that graven images aren't part of our practice. We just don't worship them. And what does worship mean? It means what is worthy of devotion, of refuge. Okay, that's the Abrahamic tradition. Let's look at it from the point of view of Hinduism, which there isn't any such thing. It's not one thing for sure. But in Advaita Vedanta, which some people say Advaita, especially here, Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual Hinduism, like Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta, all these gurus like Muji, and they're all sort of Advaita Vedanta gurus. There's this thing, and this might go back to the Upanishads, which is the deep teaching, according to a guru in India whose ashram I stayed in, and Gita's ashram group. He's the head of it now. The one she came out of, and she's related there. She's got her Zen thing, but anyway, Nyeti, not this, not that. So that's an interesting, and that's his, that's the via negativa. What is Buddha? What is the ultimate truth? Well, it's not this, not that, and neither not this, not that, So what about a neti approach toward refuge? We find ourselves, if we pay attention, taking refuge. Well, what do we take refuge? We take refuge in breath. We take refuge in our bodies. We take refuge from the cold and the rain. But those are all understandable refuges that are not based on delusion, I would say. They're part of just being whatever we are. But taking refuge in something that is a false god, that is a graven image, is something we're doing all the time, I think. And when I say we, I just sort of look at myself and observe others, but I don't really know what other people are doing. But all right, so how about having the neti approach? You can perceive taking refuge or in something. You go, not this, and then something else, not that, and then everything you take refuge on, you just keep patting away. Not this, not that, but we continue our practice, our zazen, and bring zazen into daily life, and we never take refuge in. We can never find anything to take refuge in that we don't say not this, not that. And then it'll all just fall away and we will automatically take refuge when we're beyond clinging to conceptual thought. So that's one way to look at it. That's the via negativa approach, not this, not that. Okay, one more. Renunciation. There was I think it was David Padwa, who quoted some guru, met some guru, Tibetan guru, he was into Tibetan Buddhism, who said, renunciation is not giving up, the pleasures of life. It's realizing that our hopes and dreams will not be fulfilled. So renunciation is like renouncing false refuge. Anyway, this can go on forever. But thank you for allowing me this indulgence. I just wanted to wrap for a while on those things. I'm working on something, and I just wanted to take a break. I can't stop working on it and see how that would go. And I wanted to, I know there's a lot of people who are upset, but and maybe things will work out in the phenomenal realm in ways that we hadn't anticipated. And there will be other problems that arise. And just remember, the solution, the good news, as the Christians say, it's within our mind that is always there. And so basically, it's always okay, although it sure might not seem like it. This has been a Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Dogette Bandita, guest Dogette Bumbita, feline Manecita, dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.